Hi, my name is Lisa Jordan, and I'm with the Steelworkers Education Department. Today we're going to talk about grievance handling. At this point, you've probably already gone through several of these videos, and hopefully you have a better idea of the role of the griever as an educator, as an organizer, and as a communicator. And all those important skills are going to come into play today as you think about the role of the steward as a griever. You've also at this point reviewed your rights and roles as a union steward, the legal obligations you have as well as the legal rights, and those again play into what we're going to be talking about today. Our focus is going to be on the actual grievance process. Now in the last video clip you saw, we talked about the difference between a grievance and a complaint and the grounds that those are based on. Today what we're going to do is say someone has come to you and you believe that you might have a grievance that you need to investigate. How do you move forward with that? And in order to be able to do that, you have to understand exactly what your obligations and your rights are. So I'll be reviewing some of the stuff that you've already done thus far. So a member comes to you and says, hey, I got bypassed for overtime. What do you do? Well, first of all, what we know is we got to double check everything. You as a steward, remember the equality principle? Basically what it says is when you're dealing with management, you are an equal to management. The second thing is going to be really important in the grievance investigation process is knowing that you have a right to information. So once somebody comes to you with an issue, you can begin the investigation process. Depending on your workplace and your structure and what's allowed, you may be able to do this on work time if that's explicit, or you may not, depending on your workplace. In any case, what you will be doing is going out and gathering information. Who was involved? The what happened, when did it happen, and all the information you might need. We have a form that's a grievance investigation form, and it'll walk you through all the questions you need to ask. But basically, you need to talk to all the parties involved, and you need to follow up on all information. So in the case I just mentioned, if somebody tells you they were bypassed for overtime, the first thing you'd want to do is look at the contract language. Does the contract language specifically set out an overtime policy? And if it does, where are the records kept that would affirm that? Who else might have been involved? Who else do you need to talk to? So every case is going to be different, but fundamentally what you need to know is you have a right to information. Let's take another example. Let's say somebody's been disciplined. As a steward, when that person comes to you, hopefully you already had a heads up because during the investigatory meeting that might lead to discipline, they exercise their Weingarten rights. You remember Weingarten from our presentation on the legal rights of union members. So if you were in that meeting, hopefully you or someone else will have notes of what the company's concerns are. Again, the process is to investigate. The other thing to know is it's not just about the law, though. As a steward, you are that person's communicator. You should be the person they trust. So if somebody comes to you and says, I think I have a grievance, or I think I was treated unfairly, what you need to let them know is that you're going to follow up and you're going to get back to them. Too many stewards do their jobs in an exceptional manner, but forget to stay in touch with folks. So if somebody comes to you and says, I have a problem, give them a time you're going to get back to them and stick with that. That's how we build solidarity. That's how we build trust. At the same time, there's a good chance that you're going to have people come to you with a complaint. Hey, they won't let me have an extra locker from my stinky shoes. And you know it's simply a complaint, not a grievance. We've talked about that earlier in one of these presentations. It's good to still listen to people because one day that person may come to you with something that's actually a grievance. And that may be the hardest thing for a steward to do is to maintain attention and focus when someone who's talking to them is somebody they see as just a complainer. But remember, we have a duty of fair representation. That means we treat everyone equally and we investigate all potential issues. What we're going to do today is a little bit different than what you've done in the other videos. I'm laying out a broad picture of what it means to investigate a grievance. We're going to look at a video that was made quite a while ago so you can laugh at the big bows and hair. But it really plays true today of how a grievance gets investigated, how you deal with a member effectively, and then how you present your grievance to management. After we watch that video, we'll come back and talk a little bit about the most effective way to be a steward, and once you've determined that you have a grievance, how you can adequately and efficiently write up the grievance for the best possible outcome. Now, watch this crazy video and we'll talk later. So as you'll see in the video, or as you saw in the video, the steward in each case did things properly and things improperly. But what we learned from this is that there's a way of dealing with members that can make members feel engaged and cared about. Our first steward, if you'll remember, made all kinds of promises that he wasn't sure that he could keep. And that's something we have to be careful of when we're handling people's issues. We need to take in the information knowing that we need to investigate and double check all facts. We also need to make sure, as I said, that we get back in touch with people and people feel like we have concern for them. Our last steward, the one that went to management, properly investigated the grievance. They made sure that they found out who was involved in the issue, what happened, when the grievance occurred, where the grievance occurred, what the demands for settlement were, and then she went to management and presented her case in a very effective way. She didn't become overly emotional, but she remembered that in dealing with management, she isn't equal to them. She asked for all the information she needed to make her case. And now, though she's been denied by management at the first step, she's ready to write the grievance. There's two forms that you need to know we have as a union. The first is the grievance investigation form. And you'll be able to walk through the investigation process by using that. The second is our standard grievance form. The standard grievance form, you don't want to share all your information with management on that form. Basically, what you do is you write out what happened, why it's a grievance, and what resolution you want. And it's important to remember a few things when you do that. When you're asking for your resolution, remember you want to make it broad so that you can get all appropriate remedies. So, for example, you'll see on our standard grievance form, we'll say things like, we want the person made whole in every way, including but not limited to the amount of money that they lost. If somebody has been laid off for some amount of time due to an unfair discipline, we want them made whole in every way. So that form includes language. It's very important to have it that includes any kind of interest and other things that might come up. When you talk about why something's a grievance, it might be clear to you, at least initially, that it's a violation of the contract, but it may also be a violation of the company's policies, state, or federal rules. So when you write why something's a grievance, you will say it's a violation of Article 3A and any other applicable laws or policies. So we will always want to be broad when we write these grievances. I'm sure this is something that your staff reps will be working with you on as you move forward, but it's important to keep in mind. So I want to take a minute to talk to you and to read to you from the grievance report form so you can see what I'm talking about this kind of language. So where it says, what's the remedy requested? You would write in the remedy you want, but then we have language that says, plus the union demands that the company cease and desist from violating the collective bargaining agreement, that the incidents be rectified, that proper compensation, including benefits and overtime, at the applicable rate of pay, be paid for all losses, and further that those affected be made whole in every respect, including interest and any other monies owed. So you can see what we're trying to do is just make sure that if this is an issue that ever gets to arbitration, that we don't leave anything out when we write our actual grievance. So just to summarize what I've been saying today, basically in this portion of the video, we wanted to talk a little bit about how you investigate a grievance, how you present a grievance, and then how you write the grievance. And those are the three parts that got covered primarily in the video. When you write the grievance, it's important to remember to use the form that we have, the standardized form, and also to be sure to write it as broad as you possibly can, and to remember to only write a grievance when you actually have a grievance, not just because there's a complaint. But maybe the most important thing that I haven't mentioned is that you have to do all of these things in a timely manner. Because if you don't adhere to your contract and make sure that the grievance is presented within that timeline, as shown in the video, then while that grievance might be good, we will lose our opportunity to represent that person. And that is not something that we ever want to do as a union. So as you think about your job as a union steward, remember that it's not just about being the best investigator, the best presenter, or the best writer. It's about maintaining relationships with the members so that they know that you're doing that work for them. And as you do these things, remember that there's a strong body of law out there that says that when you're dealing with management, you're an equal to management, that you have a right to information. Also remember that you have a duty to represent everyone equally and without being biased towards anyone. And as you move through this process, remember that every time you deal with a member, it's an opportunity to be an organizer, the opportunity to be an educator, an opportunity to engage them in the work that the union does. Because our job is to make everyone in this organization feel like they're a part of the organization and that we can move forward and build a stronger union together. So as you move forward with this process and you're writing your grievances, remember if at any point you have any questions, please contact your staff rep. They're experts in this area and this is what they do every day. But also remember that your job as a union steward is not to be perfect. It's not to always know the contract, and it's not always to do everything precisely right. What it is about building the power of the union and letting people know there's somebody there to listen and to fight for them. We're here to support you. I hope this has been helpful. Solidarity forever, and thank you for all the work you do. You are the face of the union.